Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be here. So my name is Kirsty, and I'm going to be talking to you today about removing the fear of virtual networking so that you can kind of enjoy the rest of the event, like acknowledging that sometimes this stuff can feel a bit weird and feel a bit scary. I'm going to give you some tools, some techniques, some strategies so that hopefully if that like awkwardness, if that nerves comes up, then we kind of know what to do about it and it's all normal and it's all chill. Before we dive in, I'll just take a couple of moments just to introduce myself so you know who I am. So as I mentioned, my name's Kirsty. I'm called Kirsty Hulse. I used to run a marketing agency, and as I was doing that, I built that team up and there was 70 of us. And I realized over that time that a lot of the things that we have to do in like professional work, corporate environments are actually like kind of difficult. So networking, interviewing, presenting, like for us as humans, and we'll talk more about this later, for us as humans, like that stuff is actually kind of daunting and kind of scary and a little bit weird. So for the past couple of years, I've been a confidence coach. So I help people like own their voice and share their story. And I'm going to share some of the tools and the techniques and the things that I've learned throughout my career with you today. And it's worth saying, everything that I'm sharing will help you over the course of this event. It will help you in any upcoming interviews, presentations, but also it will just help more broadly in our lives. Obviously, this is a well-being focused event, so it's really worth reminding everyone that there's only really one you. We often tend to think there's like a work us or a student us and a professional us and us, but really there's just one us. We're one animal body. And so if things are stressing us out in one area, it stresses us out in other areas as well. So that's always really nice to remember. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll dive in. I just wanted to start just by introducing myself and saying hello and that it's really nice to be here. So yes, I'm going to be talking about removing the fear of virtual networking, because as we know, like this stuff is a bit daunting. Maybe some of you are sitting there now kind of watching this without really any clarity about what's going to happen. Some of you may be thinking this is going to be really awkward or uncomfortable, and that's okay. So I'm going to walk us through some steps, some practical steps that we can go through, and I can just set up this event for you so that we can acknowledge this and move forwards. At the end, we're going to have some questions. So I really do invite all of your thoughts, all of your questions. It makes it more enjoyable for me, really. The more questions we get, the better. So if for nothing else, ask your questions for me alone, because that's what's important here, me. Okay, so removing the fear of virtual networking. So step number one, we have 4 steps. And the first step is that most of us are feeling a bit awkward. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of us will be. That's normal. That's natural. I'm going to talk about why that is. And as I was learning about this stuff, so everything I'm going to be talking to you about today is like rooted in research. So it's rooted in organizational psychology, neuroscience, because we know a bit more about how we behave and how we act as humans now. That's really, really illuminating. So first off, 87% of us report that networking makes us nervous. Now that's real world or virtual. I'm a professional public speaker. I can speak in front of, I don't know, like an audience of thousands and be relatively okay. But if you ask me to go into a small room and network and introduce myself and answer that question, like, so what do you do? Tell me about you. Like, that's daunting to me. So if you're one of those people who also resonates with these kind of questions, this kind of like networking being difficult, just know that that's, you know, welcome to being human, welcome home. That's kind of normal, especially those questions like, so, you know, tell me about you. It's just so open-ended. It can make us feel exposed and weird, and that's completely normal. So there's a neuroscientist called Joseph Ledoux at Harvard, and he's done lots of research on this. And as humans, some of you may know this depending on like what degrees and what you study, but as humans, we have something called the negativity bias. And the negativity bias is essentially that as humans, we are built to focus on the negative. We inherited the genes that predispose us to give special attention to those negative aspects of our environments that could be harmful to us. And I really like teaching people this because, for example, you have a a group presentation, whatever it is, and it goes really, really well, goes pretty well. And at the end, your tutor, your friend, somebody, maybe a job interviewer says to you, oh, by the way, there was just that one thing you did that wasn't so good. And, it's no big deal, but maybe just work on that a little bit. Like, what do we focus on? In that instance, we've done well, it kind of went well, but there was one thing, one tiny little thing. And that then becomes what we focus on. And anything I say now, if you're sitting there and going, oh, yeah, like that makes sense to me, I resonate with that. This isn't a statement of judgment. This is a statement of confirmation. This is just how we are as humans. And we don't know this. We don't get taught this, that we're all kind of walking through the world, like focusing on what we can do, focusing on the areas that we might not do so well, thinking about things we can get wrong. And this is just normal. I have worked now with thousands of people on helping them develop their confidence at all different stages of their career, different sectors, different genders. And whether we are just starting out or whether we are owners of businesses, we all tend to feel this. We all tend to feel the similar kind of things in greater or lesser extents at different times in our lives. And we often tend to think if we're feeling nervous, if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're feeling not good enough, if we're feeling scared, if we're feeling awkward or uncomfortable, we often tend to think it's only me that feels like this. The other people don't feel like this. It's just me. So I want to just start by saying, that's not the case. This stuff is normal. We are built this way. We are genetically predisposed to look out for things that can harm us. As humans, we have two fears, pain and ridicule. So if we think about what we're doing now, we're embarking on something new, we're learning about employment opportunities like that, urologically speaking, is really, really daunting. And that's okay. If you think about when we evolved, as humans, the early stages of human evolution, we're walking through the plains of the savannah, right? And we see a tiger. It is in our interests to focus on that tiger then, but also focus on that tiger and any other moment where there may be a similar kind of situation. Only it isn't a tiger, it's an interviewer or a friend or a colleague or whatever it is. So this is normal. So I just want to start by reaching my hand out to you and saying, if you've approached this feeling a bit vulnerable, feeling a bit exposed, feeling a bit nervous, welcome home. Welcome to being human. It's what it is. It's okay. So step 2, if you're feeling nervous, nerves are normal and honestly, no big deal. I'm going to talk about the science of this a little bit because once we know this stuff, actually we can just go, oh, okay, I'm freaking out a bit. No big deal. One of the things that I do is I help people speak, right? And so hundreds of people will come up to me and say like, Kirsty, I feel so nervous about presenting. And my response is always like, yeah, yep, that's it. That's it. It is daunting. It is scary. There may be nerves. That's okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit how we can manage and how we can regulate those nerves. If anybody's sitting there now starting to feel a bit like, oh, that feeling maybe like a pit in your stomach or a bit of vulnerability or just not knowing. As humans, we don't like to know what is going to happen. So we're embarking on this event together. And maybe some of us are like, I don't know what this is going to be. I don't really know. And that makes us feel nervous too. We like to know, we like to have control, and we like to have certainty. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, and this is just something to remember now, but also just for the rest of your life, that nerves are not your enemy. Like at all. We really do tend to think of our nerves as this like mean, difficult, evil thing that is trying to quash us and make our performance bad. We live in a society, and maybe this resonates with some of you, where we have somehow connected nerves with capability. We tend to say to ourselves, like, if I'm nervous, that means I'm not good enough. If I'm nervous, that means other people are going to see, they're going to be able to tell I'm nervous, and they're going to not trust me, they're going to think I'm no good. But the reality of this is just not the case. We've kind of conflated nerves with performance and capability. And I think we really need to undo that, because research has shown, this is called the Yerkes-Dodson law. If any of you know anything about sports science, this will resonate with you. I mean, sports, not my jam. I feel like there's teams and balls. I mean, I feel like that's as much as I know. But research has shown, and athletes have known this for years, that actually when you have increased arousal, stress, an adrenal response, some nerves, a bit of like that feeling of like, ooh, like whatever it comes up for as you, that's when we perform our best. That's when we have optimal performance. That's when we grow. That's when we develop. I've been doing some stuff lately and I've been starting to feel really nervous. I'm a confidence coach and I'm doing stuff that I'm like, I don't feel very confident. And so for me now, when I feel that, I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good because it means I'm stretching myself. It means I'm growing. It means I'm learning. And if I have some nerves, it means I'm going to perform better. So for those of you that maybe are sitting there now, starting this event, perhaps feeling like, oh, this is going to be excruciating, then that's okay. That's okay. Please, and take this away now, but carry this through the rest of your life. Your nerves are not interesting. They don't mean anything. Your nerves carry no information about your abilities. They are just natural, normal, passing, temporary, physiological phenomena that for some reason our society has told us we should avoid them or be afraid of them. And actually, I promise you, if now you start going, oh, there's some nerves, okay, that's fine. That's okay. That's the main thing I do now to help me when I'm feeling awkward, stressed, nervous about something. Is I'll just go, oh, I'm nervous. Okay, cool. No big deal. Not a problem. Because what we can often do as humans, and maybe this resonates, we move from fear, whatever that fear is, different manifestations of it, to judgment. So we'll go, oh, I'm feeling nervous about this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. The stakes feel high. And then we go, well, you shouldn't feel nervous. That's stupid. You're weak. Other people wouldn't. You should be better. And maybe this resonates. We find ourselves in this dance of feeling scared to judging ourselves. That makes us feel worse. So we feel more scared. So if nothing else, I just want you to be like, okay, cool. There's some nerves. Now, sometimes, if we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, whatever it is, whether that's the networking we're going to be doing over this event or as we move into interviews, whatever that is, sometimes those nerves, they can get in the way. They can impair our performance. Sometimes we can get like really shaky hands, or our voice goes shaky and we can't even get our words out, and like we stumble, or sometimes we draw a blank. That's okay too. I mean, we have all, like, and again, like I've worked with thousands of people, various different careers, different sectors. Ask anybody, think of the most successful professional person you know and say to them, have you ever been so nervous it messed up your ability to do something? We all have examples of that. All of us. It's never the end of the world. We've all been in interviews, for example, and gone, and not got our words out right, or said something weird to an answer. It's okay. But sometimes there are techniques we can use to soften them. And so maybe some of these will be helpful to you now. So these are taken from two things. They're from a neuroscientist called Lieberman and a chap called Oshner, who is considered like one of the fathers of CBT. And if you have a pen and paper on you, I'm actually going to invite you now to write these down, because these will serve you, like really genuinely. They will serve you in all like educational, professional environments. And a lot of this stuff we do naturally, we know naturally, but in those moments, these moments, we forget we have them. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee and I will invite you to write these down. So these 4 kind of techniques, we'll run through them. And these are really powerful, like really powerful. And again, we have ways in which we can like stop things feeling awkward, stop things feeling difficult. But we do forget in the moment, which is why I'm going to invite you to write them down, have them on your desk, remind yourself of them before you do the scary things, maybe during breaks. If you start to feel a bit overwhelmed again, that's super normal. So technique number 1 is normalizing. That's basically what I've been doing so far, this whole presentation. And that's understanding that our awkwardness, our feeling exposed, feeling vulnerable, our apprehension, it's not irrational and it isn't unique. Totally normal. No big deal. The second technique is called repositioning. Now, repositioning is really powerful. This is when we can see something from the perspective of a third person. Now, this isn't comparing yourself to somebody else. But what this is, maybe there's someone in your life, maybe there's someone on your course, maybe there's a tutor, maybe there's somebody else you know in your business who inspires you, who you're like, I want to be more like them. Maybe it's even more abstract than that. Maybe it's a celebrity or something. So who is it that you want to be more like? Who inspires you? And actually, we can just say to ourselves, like, what would they do? How would they act? How would they behave? We're going slightly off topic here, but I think it's really valuable. I teach confidence primarily, right? And so many of us tend to think that confidence is this like out there thing. Confidence is over there and we have to learn it. And often we think that some people are confident and other people aren't. That's really, really common. But what I'm going to say to you now, and this is so real and hopefully this like sticks with you, is confidence isn't something we learn. Confidence is just something we remember. It's in us. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but as you're moving through today, I want you to think back now. Take a moment, just a moment, to think about those times in your life when you've nailed it, when you felt confident, when you felt comfortable. We all have them. We all have them, whether that's with your friends, whether that was in school, whether that was a different job, whatever it is. Take a moment to reflect upon those times in your life when you have felt completely powerful, completely in control, completely confident, able to sell yourself, talk about yourself, share your skills. It's in us. Confidence isn't that out there thing, it's within us. And what repositioning can do, it can just allow us to embody it just for a moment. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Then there's distancing. Distancing is really cool. And that is taking like a helicopter view of a situation. Like broadly extracting ourselves away from it. So this is saying to yourself like, okay, right. So I'm a bit nervous about some virtual networking. How will I feel about this in a month? And again, we want to be having an emotional response to our work, to the things we're doing. That's good. But this is only if those nerves are getting too much, that maybe we silence ourselves. We don't share our ideas. We risk showing up for ourselves. That happens a lot, super normal too. But if you're someone who maybe has a tendency to not speak up all that much, with lots of compassion and no judgment, say to yourself, okay, so if I really spoke up, if I really sold myself or shared my thoughts, how would I feel about that in a month? We either wouldn't care or we'd be happy about it. So maybe just take a moment to ask yourself as we go into this event, if I really show up, if I really give my all, if I really share and talk, acknowledging it doesn't feel good, that's okay. Acknowledging it feels a bit awkward and weird, that's okay. How will we feel about that in a month? And just take a moment just to reflect on that and think about that. And then the fourth technique is reframing. So difficult. This is one of the most cognitively difficult techniques to do, but super powerful. So this is considering new positive interpretations of a situation. So what's the opportunity here? Yes, it's weird. Yes, it's scary. Cool. What are the opportunities? What am I excited about? We'll do more on that in a minute. So hopefully you've got the time to jot those down. Keep those in your arsenal, like for life. I mean that. Like they're really powerful. And we tend to go to these things naturally, but we forget. In those moments before a job interview, before a presentation, before we're doing something scary, our natural, normal human response is to go, I'm scared. I'm really scared. And then we forget that we have these things within us, already within us, that we can just draw upon and use, and it will soften those nerves. We don't change based on what we know. We change based on how we feel. So this may seem abstract and weird at the moment, but if you use them, if you try them on for size, you'll be like, oh, okay, that like weird woman that was giving that presentation was totally right. It worked. So do it. I'll leave it with you. Okay, so step 3, body language. So our body language helps us. A lot of people talk about body language in terms of how other people perceive us. That's cool. I'm not so interested in that. I'm more interested in how our body language makes us feel. Maybe some of you have noticed, Ali did at the beginning of the call, I'm stood up. There's a reason for that. Research has shown that how we sit and stand before and during interviews has a significant impact on how well we perform and are rated. So I'm not asking everybody to stand up now, that would be weird, but I am asking you to expand. So if you're currently watching this and we're naturally, and again, no judgment, normal, this is how we sit, and maybe we're kind of like folded or a bit scrunched or a bit crossed. Research has shown that lowers our testosterone, which is our dominance hormone, too much detail. But loads of research shows actually if we expand out, just make ourselves big, take a bit of space. There's loads of positive impacts on that. Even just in terms of increasing our lung capacity, we can breathe more readily. If anyone's interested in this, I've linked to the research. The upright participants reported feeling more enthusiastic, excited, and strong, while the slumped participants reported feeling more fearful, hostile, nervous, quiet, still, passive, dull, sleepy, and sluggish. It feels extreme, but it's real. So if you, for example, like, if you just take a moment actually now when you're sitting there and you're kind of like crossed and hunched, even actually just watching me, if I was like delivering this presentation like this versus me delivering it like this, we can, that's why I stand kind of like this. I'm consciously all the time taking up space, making myself feel bigger. We don't have time so much to get into the research of why this is the case, but basically evolutionarily speaking, it's the same in humans and the animal kingdom. When we feel like champions, when we feel victorious, when we feel good, when we feel powerful, we make ourselves big. Really cool. There was a study of congenitally blind people who've never seen body language. And if they won, if they did something right, they went like this. So there's something deep within us. There's something innate. There's something primitive about taking up space. So I invite everybody today to have moments, it's not realistic to do it for the whole bloody time, but have moments where you sit up, you take a deep breath and you just take up space. And again, this might feel abstract at the moment, but I'll invite you now to just change your posture and you'll start to feel it. You will start to feel it. And not now, not today, but what I would recommend in the future, if you have a presentation, if you have an interview and you're scared, stand up. Especially like not in like face-to-face, like real world interviews. That would be super weird. Like, oh, you sit down, I'm going to stand up. That would be like not cool. But in a virtual setting, now we have a bit more space to be able to do this. This is the good thing about virtual spaces. And that actually these things that we know that can help us like sell ourselves, talk about ourselves more enthusiastically in a more excited and strong manner. It's on our side now. So that's kind of cool. So that's another thing. Also, oh, this is so obvious and a bit hammy. So I apologize, but research has shown that if you start a conversation and the first thing you do is smile, it makes us feel better as people, as participants, as individuals, and the other people rate us more highly in research. And you would be amazed. Right. So I'm kind of saying to you, like, if you jump onto like a breakout room or whatever, and you start speaking to each other, if the first thing you do is smile, like that has loads of positive benefits. And you would be amazed how much we don't do that in virtual settings. We do it in real life. Hi, nice to meet you. Little smile. We always do it in real life. We don't do it. I've seen it. We don't do it so much in virtual settings because we kind of get on and we're like, so I would just, now that I've told you all to do this, you're going to be really conscious of it and you're going to be like, hello. And maybe I've made it awkward. I can do that. But again, just remembering, because this really basic human stuff, like virtual is great because it allows us to be in our own environment, to feel a bit more comfortable, to create a space that allows us to show up as the best versions of ourselves. But a lot of that really basic human stuff, like meeting someone for the first time, making eye contact and smiling, that's gone. So if we were in the room now, I'd be making eye contact with all of you. I would feel like we were connecting. It would feel like a discourse. Whereas at the moment, I'm looking at a slide. So we do lose something in these kind of virtual settings, but we can also add to. So remember, like, I can't believe I'm even saying this, like I'm talking to people like you're 4, but we forget in virtual settings. So remember to smile. Pretty obvious. There we go. But again, research has shown it has a genuine impact on both how we feel, but how other people rate us. Okay, so step 4. This is my favorite. This is really cool and really powerful and really interesting. So we can reframe nerves as excitement. Some of you may have heard, some of you may know that nerves and excitement, physiologically the same thing. So if we think about what it feels to be excited about something, we might get a bit jittery, Heart rate increases, butterflies in our tummy. We become impatient for the end. We want the thing. If we think about what nerves are, we might become a bit jittery. Our heart rate increases, butterflies in our tummy. We become impatient for it to be over or just want it to go away. Physiologically, same thing. The only thing that changes is our neurological perception. Isn't that wild? So Alison Woods from Harvard Business School has done lots of research in this space. Little quote from her paper: an overwhelming majority of people believe trying to calm down is the best way to cope with pre-performance anxiety, whatever that performance is, whether it's an interview, whether it's some networking on Zoom, it's all a performance. However, individuals who reappraise that anxious arousal as excitement perform better. Who here has ever felt nervous about something and a friend, for example, has gone, oh no, you're fine, like you shouldn't be nervous. Don't be nervous, you've got this, you're absolutely fine. Oh, okay, cool, I won't be nervous anymore. Or we say to ourselves, like before a thing, we'll be going, just stop it, like calm down, calm down. We can't force and we can't will confidence. In fact, the more we try to push for it, often the further away it goes. The more we try to push to be calm, that like notion of pushing ourselves, telling ourselves to be calm and to feel in control makes us feel really out of control. So an alternative strategy, step one, normalize it. No, it's normal. Just be like, oh, okay, freaking out. I see you, freaking out version of me. But then to reappraise it as excitement. So how do we do that practically? What does that look like? So that now we do something called visioning. Some people do this naturally. Some people it's a bit harder for. It's okay. If it works for you, it's really powerful, depending on how your brain works. All that is basically is daydreaming. So as we're moving throughout the world and we'll be like playing out scenarios and conversations in our head. And typically maybe it's all the things you want to say to your ex, or maybe you're ruminating on the mistakes you've made in the past, or maybe you're thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong in 2020. Like whatever it is, it's super normal for us to do this, for us to ruminate on the past or get anxious about the future. But instead, why don't we start excitedly daydreaming about potential positive outcomes? So I invite you now, we're going to move into questions in a minute, but I invite you now to just ask yourself, if this was to go really, really well, what could happen? Just could. We don't need to be attached to the outcome. Why are we here? What do we want to learn? In what ways do we want to grow? And think about that. So before I do something scary, whatever that scary thing is, I'm never thinking about the thing. I've trained myself to do this. All this stuff is just skills. Like there is a version of me that can stand here and present and be confident. It's just a version of me. It's not me all the time. That would be exhausting for everyone. It's just a version of me. And the way I can show up as this version of me is, so before I did this, I was like, okay, so what would be really cool? Well, I'll get to speak to these people. Hopefully I can like make them laugh and inspire them and maybe give them a bit of guidance around this stuff, because this stuff can be difficult. I would really like that. That would be really cool. That would make me feel good. And actually those nerves, we start to shift them and change them. So just a moment, ask yourself the question now, like, why am I here? Why are you giving up your time to do this? What are the good things that could come out of it? There's always good things that come out of things, whether that's just growth, whether that's just learning. And actually we start to reappraise those nerves as excitement, because physiologically our bodies don't know the difference. Our mind is ruling the show here. So we can just be like, hey brain, all I want you to do is, I get that this is scary, no big deal, no judgment, I got you. But actually, can we just daydream and picture about some of the cool stuff for a minute? And again, this is research based. Positive approaches cause us to be more cognitively and perceptually open and engage motivational processes. So in other words, like we're more present, we're more open, we're more engaged, we want to win, all of those good things that can really help us in life. And often this may seem elusive and this may seem abstract, but we all have that friend, we all know that person who just has something about them. Charisma. We tend to, again, think of that as just being something that some people have. But research has shown good presenters, people with charisma, are those people who naturally go to these things. And so visioning this, picturing success, whatever that looks like for you. And at the moment, it might just be, we don't even know what it is. It might just be a feeling, and that's okay. It works by arousing hope, which results in an increase in openness, cognitive function, and flexibility. So there's loads and loads of different things here. And visioning is probably one of the most powerful. So let's actually just do an exercise for a moment. I wasn't going to do this, but why not? We're all friends here, right? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And cool, so you should just be able to see me now. Awesome. What we're going to do, we're just going to do a visioning exercise for 5 minutes. And actually, I think it will be a really nice way to set up the event. So another part of my day job is I'm a meditation teacher. So this is, it's not meditation, but it kind of is like a little bit. So all we're going to do is, I can't see anybody, by the way, so safe space, you're all safe, you're on your own, this is all good. So all I'm going to invite everybody to do now is make sure that you're sitting comfortably. And we're going to just walk through a few minutes of this, just daydreaming, a visualization exercise, just to set us up for the next few days. Research has shown this to be powerful. I'm not a total weirdo. Right, okay, so sit down, feet planted on the floor, roll your shoulders back. And I'm going to invite you now just to close your eyes and just take a big, deep breath in through your nose and just exhale out through your mouth. And let's do one of those. If you've not yet closed your eyes, I'm going to ask you, you know, in Aladdin, when he takes her hand and goes, do you trust me? Do you trust me? That's basically what I'm doing now. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Big, deep breath in through your nose. And an exhale out through your mouth. Deep breath in through your nose. And exhale out through your mouth. And just try and take a moment just to feel present, just to feel here. I know it's all virtual, we're all in different rooms, all over the place. But actually, if we can just take a minute to like feel connected, all of these people in this space. And what I want you to do now is, still with your eyes closed, all I want you to do is just picture a time in the future. We don't need to know when. Picture a time in the future when you feel like you're absolutely nailing it. We don't need to know details, but you're having a day where you feel like you're absolutely nailing, you're doing everything that you want to do. You feel confident, you feel in control, you feel powerful. And just try and picture that now and watch yourself as you move throughout this day. Some of you, this will be really easy for. Others, it will feel really abstract. Maybe nothing's coming up. That's okay. For those of you that can really see, what are you wearing? What are you doing as you move through this day where you feel really good? You feel really on. We've had those days in the past. And so just feel it now and allow those feelings to start coming up for you. And again, just to remember, feeling confident, feeling as though we can sell ourselves, being present. It's not outside, it's within us. So I'm just asking you to call up those feelings now and just watch yourself as you do it. And take a big deep breath in through your nose again. And as you do, I want you to picture really relishing and loving and enjoying this event. Really going for it, giving it your all, being so present. Really listening, really taking the advice. In virtual events, it's so easy for us to half be there. So now I just want you to invite you to just see yourself, picture yourself, full presence, totally being here, giving this your all. Really being with everybody, really being with the speakers, really sharing, and feel how much better that would feel now. And picture yourself making connections, meeting new people, thriving, growing, learning. Picture yourself doing it now and let those feelings start to come. Some of you, if this is a technique that will resonate with you, some of you will already start to feel more open, more expansive. Some of you may even want to smile. And so we're just going to take one big deep breath here together. All of us, if we feel apart, but we're all together doing this. So take one big deep breath through the nose and just release out through the mouth. And I'm going to invite you back. So this time you can open your eyes again. So for those of you, welcome back. Thank you for doing that with me. I wasn't going to do it, but it felt right in the moment. So for those of you, if that technique worked, if you felt as though you could see it and you felt your mood shifting, is probably about 35 to 40% of people that are like, yes, I get it. So if you're in that other percentage and you're like, what is this? That's okay, super normal, we're all different. But if it did work with you, pop it in the chat, let me know, and I'll give you some further resources. Because when we talk about showing up, presenting, like being able to deliver powerful presentations, interviews, whatever they are, that technique, if it works for you, is very powerful and like a shortcut. So before we move into questions, I'm just going to do a really quick wrap of the stuff that we've gone through and the different steps. Okay, so step number 1. If you're feeling like this is awkward, if you're feeling like this is weird, that's okay. You're not alone. I'm sure loads of people are. And actually, we're going to move into questions in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I am going to invite you, and please do this. I'm going to invite you now to just pop a yes in the chat. If you feel a bit like, if you're feeling some tension, you're feeling some nerves, you're feeling like some of this stuff today could be difficult, could be weird. So I invite you now to just like put yes in the chat, just to kind of like create that sense. And then the next thing, step number 2. So nerves are normal, natural. Step number 2 is to just know that they'll help you perform. Like, it's not weird, it's not unique. Nicola, thank you so much. I'm really glad that it worked for you. It's not unique, it's not weird. This is just normal, natural stuff. And then step number 3, I've forgotten what step number 3 is. What was step number 3? Let's have a look. Your body language. Yes, most important, perhaps. So step number 3, for those of you that are sitting hunched, I will just roll those shoulders back, take up some space. It has an impact both on how we're perceived, but more so has an impact for how others perceive us. So that's really cool. So just open those lungs, breathe. It's really nice to hear that that technique worked well for some of you. Thank you so much. And just let it in and be big and take up space. This is your time to take up space. We don't have to shrink, because when we physiologically shrink, we psychologically shrink too, and we make our voices small, and we all have experience. We all have things to share. So thank you. And then the 4th one, the last one, is know how it feels. Know what it looks like when you are present, when you are open. When you are feeling like really open and really expansive, it makes a difference. Even just that 5 minutes we did together of just picturing good stuff, picturing positive stuff, breathing, dropping into the moment, being present. It really helps. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for those of you that are saying the technique worked. What I'll do is I have a recording basically of me doing that. So I'll get that to you so that you can use it as you move through the world. Because I found it, if it works, like it really works. So at this stage now, I believe we are inviting questions. But again, just to say thank you for listening, thank you for being here. It's been a joy. Hello, Lizzie.
Hello, lovely to see you. That was really motivating and inspiring.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I absolutely love this stuff, and I've been sitting here doing the breathing. I mean, I probably look funny, but no one can see me, so it doesn't matter.
Do you mind if very quickly, somebody put a comment in the chat earlier, I'm just going to quickly respond to. So it was Alex who said it was off topic, but I find it inspiring to hear you run your own marketing agency. As a 19-year-old aspiring entrepreneur who was interned at marketing agencies, I find that so great to hear. Yes, thank you, Alex. And also just to say, I started my agency at 25. I was young. I sold it at 29. And so all of this stuff, like the great stuff about that kind of space is it moves quickly. It moves quickly, and actually anyone can do whatever you want within any time frame, and we can just learn and grow and develop. So thank you. I'm glad you found that inspiring. Thank you, Alex.
I thought that was a really good point, and it made me think of a question that I had to ask you around this. Like, what inspires you? Because you're very inspirational, and you've got lots of, obviously, starting up your own agency. Yeah, what inspires you?
That's a lovely question. Thank you. So what genuinely inspires me, and actually this isn't just me, this is us as humans, this is a silly word, but like servitude. So research has shown what makes us happy as humans, the main thing that makes us happy is altruism, doing things for others. And so we all have this, whatever our career is, whatever we're working on at the moment, there are ways in which we can help others. And actually, when we make that our focus and we almost like remove ourselves from it, and we're still like focusing on us and stuff, but actually when we're like, okay, so what things can I do today? Tiny things that will in some way help others, then actually we just become more open and more expansive. And there's loads of research on this. And it isn't even about actions so much, it's more about mindset. Because everybody on this call does things every single day that positively impact other people. All of us do. And actually, it's just about noticing that, seeing that, observing that, and choosing to go. And it may be family, it may be friends, it may be work, it may be at uni, like whatever it is, we're all doing things that have a positive impact on others. And when we start to notice that, it's really fulfilling and it's really rich. And I think, so that's probably what inspires me. And I think we want meaning in our lives as humans. And often we tend to expect the external thing to give it meaning, but actually we give things meaning by what we choose to focus on. Does that sound really abstract, or does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. I think it's, as you say, it's just looking at things differently and making sure that you don't always focus on sort of the negative things. You're looking at I love all those points about looking at the bigger picture, and just making sure that you don't concentrate on all the things that then just bring you down. You have to keep pushing yourself up, and all links to confidence. So yeah, really, really good tips. I love it. So if there's anyone in the audience, we've got a couple of minutes. If there's anything that people want to ask, pop it in the chat, because I can see the chat and then I can ask Kirsty. So I've got another one, which I've asked a few different people on these virtual events. So learning from challenges is always a big thing, and especially like fear of failure and all of those things. So I just wondered, from your side, from your own experience, what's been your kind of biggest challenges and how have you got through them?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Thank you. So obviously we learn and grow through failure, right? But it feels horrible. It's like that kind of like, you make a mistake and it's that like pit in your, I actually happened to me yesterday. I made a mistake and I did something professionally that like upset someone, and I was like, ugh, I felt sick. And so I think for me, my challenges is, it's constant. There's always challenges. There's always things moving and shifting. And I think my biggest challenge for me is actually allowing myself to use those failures as the thing that builds resilience rather than the thing that creates chinks in my armor. And again, that's another mindset shift. And there's something called growth mindset. Maybe you're familiar with it. And it's when we develop a mindset in ourselves when we are open to criticism or constructive feedback. And we perceive this stuff as things that help us grow, things that help us learn. Easier said than done. But one of the practical ways to do that is if we cast our minds back to the times when we have failed or when we've not done so well, write out all the things we learned from it. And actually develop that habit of like constantly taking lessons, because I think that alone was the biggest challenge for me, because stuff always goes wrong, like always. It's like just life and the world and work and business. We're always making mistakes, like human error. We're getting things wrong. And one of the things that I like to say is our brains are as unique as our fingerprints. Like everybody's brain is completely different. The way we encode and store information. So we're going to make a mess. Like we see things so differently. And so I think my biggest challenge was understanding that, acknowledging that, and then being able to not completely beat myself up when I make mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's okay to make mistakes. It's how you reflect on them, and that's exactly what you're saying, how you learn from them. So really, really good advice. So we've not got any questions. We've got loads of people saying thank you. Lots of people have mentioned about the resources. So I guess how do you want to get those resources then?
I will. So I presume I'll just send it to you and you can just email it to the people who registered if they're interested.
Excellent. Yeah. What I was going to say, what we do just for the audience, we've got afterwards, we'll get all of these videos and we'll pop them on the website where you registered, and then we'll email you all out. So if we work with you and we'll get a page or something on these resources, because they're so useful. Just changes your whole mindset and attitude towards all of these scary things that happen in the world.
Yeah, and it's just a link to a recording, and I kind of give it away quite freely, because if that technique works for you and for the people it did, it's a superpower. Just spending 5 minutes before we need to doing that, like, really has a positive impact. It's not hypnosis, but it's not a million miles away from it. Yeah, sorry, I was just answering a question in the chat.
Well, I think we're 10:45, so that's about how much time we've got time for. So thank you so much. What a brilliant start to the day. Hopefully everyone's energized. Yeah, loads of great things in there. So thank you so much again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful time. Bye.
Bye.